category is What the Trans Darlings.
Welcome back everybody, back to the consultation train. Tickets must be validated by 2 doctors, at least one of whom must be a psychotherapist, and you must spend a long time already on the train before we allow you to travel officially.
Seriously though, we've made the almost unprecedented decision for us to make a mini episode because we have to make a call to action. There is, at time of recording, an open consultation on the use of puberty blockers to treat trans kids on the NHS. Now, there are a lot of opinions on whether we as a community should even engage with this, given how NHS England have previous experience in rejecting consultation results that they didn't like, and how this is one of a great many consultations, the purpose of which seems to be to force the trans community into a constant state of firefighting, always alert for where the next attack is coming from and unable to push for any meaningful change. That it's exhausting is surely the point, you may think. And you may well be right, and that's definitely a viewpoint I've espoused myself several times.
But we don't think that means we just give up and let it happen. We believe that trans people need to contribute to this wherever we can, to try and counter some of the harmful rhetorical elements that have sprung up around it. Chief among which is how this consultation, like so many before it, doesn't even centre around trans people's experiences. It's about protecting the lives, or more realistically, the feelings of cis people. It is cis people who have set the terms of this consultation every step of the way, as they have for all the other ones. We believe they're making a number of key omissions each time they do this, by setting a very narrow range of parameters for the evidence they have claimed to be calling for.
So with all of that said, to business. The consultation remains open until November the 1st, which is less than a week away as we record this. The clinical policy under discussion in the consultation is summarised on the NHS website as follows. The policy proposition is that puberty-suppressing hormones, or PSH, are not recommended to be available as a routine commissioning option for the treatment of children and adolescents who have gender incongruence or dysphoria. They want to stop that completely. They don't recommend it be used. And this is what the concerted anti-trans movement has been working towards. They want to stop giving any meaningful trans healthcare to those aged 16 or under, and we don't think it will stop there. Once they've cut off the young trans people's healthcare, they will move on to the rest of us. And indeed, you could argue that those same interests already have. The same interests that pushed for the restrictive laws in Oklahoma, Texas, and South Carolina, the states that have considered banning any kind of trans healthcare for people up to the age of 26, are present here in the UK as well, and we have to resist them. Today, now, this is how we do that.
And we here at What the Trans have put together some resources for those seeking out to fill a consultation. You'll find all these in the description wherever you listen to this podcast.
Whew. That's quite a lot to get through, wasn't it?
It really is, and at this point, we wish we had more time to get this out. Like,
I know,
it's just been crazy. 1st of November.
Definitely, and it's amazing that that's like next week. How on earth did that happen? But also, we've had the hell of a couple of months, haven't we? Just behind the scenes, there's been a lot of stuff. I'm sure the eventual book will describe everything in detail, but oh, good lord. But yeah, we needed to make this. We needed to get something out about this to pick up the last few people who might think, oh, there's no point me filling it out. There is. There really is. Trans healthcare in the UK is a fucking disaster. And a cis person-made disaster. And bear in mind that the last set of draft guidelines which were issued in October 22 were an abomination, an absolute travesty. This joint statement was issued about it by WPATH, AsiaPath, EPath and PATHA and USPath, and it used words like unconscionable, unevidenced, ludicrous and dangerous. That was the description of their last plan. They turned so far away from internationally established best practice that that's how they were described.
Yeah, all the acronyms just screamed out in anger.
Yeah, exactly. And so all of these organisations that are specifically about trans health all over the world world said, no, this is a stupid idea, it's unconscionable, ludicrous, dangerous, right? That's strong language for a medical organisation, I would say.
There's been, 2 consultations about it? Just probably because the amount of pushback there's been so far. That could be evidence on why doing the submissions of evidence here is more important than ever. It might feel futile, but someone has to read your experiences. Each of these unique experiences is literally evidence that they need to sift through. And in the documents we're going to put out and such for people to read, one of the key sentences that was put out was that stakeholders are trans people, are people who are affected by the decisions made by this guidance. So quite frankly, whatever crap the anti-trans bastards are putting out, if we put in our actual experiences, we could outnumber them. We could easily show, look at all the damage that's happened because of a lack of puberty blockers.
Yeah, exactly. And that, that's one of the many cruxes of it, really. Because I keep wanting to say, oh, that's the crux of it. No, that's the crux of it. But all of this stuff is so important. There is so much context. And that's why it's so, I can't think of the word. It can be very, very intimidating. That's the word. To think, oh, I don't know what I'd say if I submitted a response to this. But if you're a trans person who had puberty blockers and they helped, or if you're a trans person who didn't have puberty blockers and wished they'd been available to you, like I am, that's the evidence I intend to submit, is that if puberty blockers had been available when I was of the right age to take them, then that would have made things significantly different in my life. My voice wouldn't sound like this, par exemple. And we want to say, obviously we want to think that we can try and outnumber them, this very small but vocal minority of organised anti-trans people, but I don't know. Fingers crossed we would, but then are they just going to spam this with the same copy-pasted results? And if they are those copy-pasted results going to be noticed and removed? Who can say? But we've got to try, right? We've got to shoot our shot. Think of it like the Area 51 raid. They can't get all of us.
Yeah, and if each response is unique, it can't exactly be discounted in the same box that the anti-trans idiots will be putting to. Like, if there was a time to trauma dump onto these consultations about all the situations you've had because of this situation, it would be now on this sort of thing. Every time your parents stop you from getting gender-affirming care, that should be included, how you're affected by it. You don't have to be scientific, just a show of how you were affected as a stakeholder or as a trans person.
Yeah, trans people are stakeholders in trans healthcare, weirdly enough. Hell, even if you're a parent of a trans kid or a cis ally and your trans friend or relative or co-worker has been affected, let them know. I think cis allies could be stakeholders here as well, realistically. Allies of trans people who would like to make the point that this is about bodily autonomy, and that is the crux of it. Because that element, that, framing of it is not what they're doing. The bodily autonomy, the right to decide what happens to your own body, is being completely paved over by this intended approach. Heck, the last set of consultations that we mentioned even propose not allowing kids to socially transition. So that's where their thinking is coming from. I don't think we've got any reason to think that they're going to have walked back from that for any reason other than the resistance they encountered. And they think, let's see what we can get away with this time. And we have to let them know that this also is unacceptable.
They can't walk away from the tons of sheer trauma from the lack of treatment people have gotten over the years to say, oh, look, all this suffering and pain, and we're just going to ignore it. That's very hard to just walk away from.
I agree. And as I've said, if you're a cis ally, now's the perfect time. If you had to get laser hair removal surgery, you can tell the people on the consultation. Or if you had to get, feminizing facial surgery because of being forced through the wrong puberty, you can tell the people on the NHS consultation. All these extra things that we've had to do as a result of going through puberty wrong. This is the time to talk about it. It really is.
Another good thing to mention as well alongside this with treatments is that when they're looking at the consultation, they're probably looking at alternatives to puberty blockers to to move people away from stuff. And one of the things which anti-trans groups would probably be looking at that we need to desperately get at would be conversion therapy.
They will say, oh, well, we won't provide puberty blockers, but we will provide alternative therapies. And those alternative therapies will be a denial of life-saving trans healthcare, or they will try and frame affirmative trans healthcare as conversion therapy. And then with this alleged upcoming conversion therapy ban, they'll be angling to use that to ban trans healthcare full stop.
Exactly.
NHS England have chosen to disregard the evidence put forward by international best practice. It's just shocking, really, and we're sorry we haven't got this out sooner. We've not spoken about it before, but there is still time, comrade. Alongside this podcast, in the description, you will find some notes that you can check out. We would absolutely like to thank Shroomy and their friends Lucy Rowan and Milo. The collective work they've put into pulling those resources together has been really impressive. We should be putting out a very cool document with all sorts of advice and such on it. We're hoping to get that out by Friday, or as soon as possible, Friday the 27th. If you're listening to this on Friday the 27th, chances are that document already exists and will be online, so do check that out when you are filling out your own response to the consultation. It's worth saying as well that Abigail Thorne from Philosophy Tube has also written an excellent article for trans rights, which will also be linked in the description.
And if we forget anything in this podcast that we should be mentioning, it'll probably be down in the description as we remember it.
That's really as much as we can say on it. We don't want them to try and disguise conversion therapy as some kind of alternative to actual trans affirmative care. And I think we need to stress that bodily autonomy is the key point here. What people want to do with their own bodies on an informed consent model shouldn't really be anybody else's business. And that's it. So, yes, do have a look at the document that Shroomy and Co. have put together. It's got some excellent stuff in it, shaping up really nicely. Please do give your experience of blockers if you had them or not. Especially if you didn't get them, then they need to know that not prescribing them is guaranteed to cause harm.
Also, another thing I've read as well was that someone mentioned do not put abusive messages or any abuse in them, because otherwise it'll just be thrown out immediately. And
Justifiably.
Yeah, justifiably so.
That's as much as we can say. Thanks for listening. And please do check out the documentations and send in the consultation if you're able to. And thank you all.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.